Ryan Reynolds seems to have discovered a surprising new role lately. And no, it's not another wisecracking anti-hero or marketing stunt. This time, he's stepping into your child's bedtime routine. Between running his production company, juggling multiple business ventures, supporting his wife Blake Lively during an active legal battle, and maintaining one of the busiest public profiles in Hollywood, Reynolds has somehow found time to read bedtime stories to children across America. And not quietly either. The project has officially landed at Nickelodeon. The series is called Bedtime Stories with Ryan Reynolds, a 10-episode live-action storytime program produced by Reynolds' company Maximum Effort. According to reports from Deadline and network promotional materials, the show is scheduled to air on Nick Jr., running weeknights from 9 to 9:30 p.m. beginning March 2. In the series, Reynolds reads both classic and original bedtime stories, while animated elements and practical effects bring the stories to life around him. It's being described as warm, playful, and imaginative, a shared experience for kids and parents at the end of the day. But here's where things get interesting. This isn't actually new content. Promotional footage circulating now matches material originally released in 2023 under Maximum Effort's banner. In that earlier clip, Reynolds appears in pajamas, reading with a slightly tongue-in-cheek tone, leaning into his familiar dry humor. The trailer that recently resurfaced for Nickelodeon is visually identical. Same wardrobe, same set design, same footage. That suggests this series was produced years ago and only now secured a network home. The project was created by Ryan Reynolds alongside George Dewey, Maximum Effort's co-founder, and directed by Vincent Pione. Maximum Effort, of course, is the production company behind the Deadpool franchise and a slate of highly stylized marketing campaigns that blur the line between satire and sincerity. That branding DNA is noticeable even in the bedtime concept. In promotional clips, Reynolds delivers lines like, "Rest your tired bones and remember, whatever you do, don't fall asleep," twisting traditional bedtime softness into something more ironic. For some viewers, it's charming. For others, it feels offbeat for a preschool audience. Public reaction online has been split. Some parents view it as a creative way to bring a recognizable voice into family programming. Others question whether Reynolds' signature sarcastic delivery aligns with the tone typically associated with Nick Jr., a block historically built around preschool-focused educational and gentle entertainment content. The time slot itself, 9 p.m., has also sparked conversation, as many preschoolers are already asleep by then, raising questions about the intended demographic. What makes the timing more notable is the broader context surrounding Reynolds' household. His wife, Blake Lively, is currently engaged in an ongoing legal dispute connected to Justin Baldoni and related parties, with proceedings overseen by Judge Louis Lyman in federal court. While Reynolds is not the central litigant in that matter, his public presence remains closely tied to the case due to media coverage and industry scrutiny. Against that backdrop, launching a children's bedtime series adds an unexpected dimension to his public image. The resurfacing of this 2023 project in 2026 suggests a strategic release rather than a spontaneous creation. It appears Nickelodeon picked up content that had already been produced and sitting without distribution. That isn't uncommon in television. Networks frequently acquire completed projects that were previously shopped without landing, but the repackaging as a fresh rollout has understandably led some viewers to assume it was newly filmed. So the reality is this: Bedtime Stories with Ryan Reynolds is not a brand new production. It is an existing Maximum Effort project that has now secured a platform on Nick Jr. Whether families embrace it or ignore it will ultimately depend on personal preference. Some parents may enjoy the novelty of a Hollywood star narrating stories in an unconventional tone. Others may stick with more traditional children's programming or familiar online creators. What's clear is that Reynolds continues to expand his brand in unexpected directions, from superhero franchises to aviation gin to soccer club ownership to children's television. And this latest move arrives at a time when public attention on his household is already heightened. Meanwhile, outside the entertainment headlines, real movement has also taken place in federal court, and that's where the next layer of this story begins. While Ryan Reynolds' bedtime television venture circulates across parenting forums and entertainment headlines, the more consequential developments tied to his household are unfolding quietly inside a federal courtroom. The legal dispute involving Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, along with associated business entities, has not slowed down. In fact, recent docket activity shows that both sides are actively preparing for trial, and the court calendar has just shifted slightly. The case is being overseen by Judge Lewis Lemon in the Southern District of New York. For weeks, there had been little visible movement on the public docket beyond filings tied to evidence disclosures and procedural exchanges. But recently, the parties jointly requested a modest adjustment to pre-trial deadlines. Importantly, this was not a contentious motion. Both sides agreed. Originally, several key filings were scheduled for late March. These included joint pretrial motions in limine, proposed voir dire questions for jury selection, and draft jury instructions. The initial deadlines placed the primary filing on March 20, with opposition responses due March 27. Under the new joint request, those dates were pushed back by roughly 1 week, shifting the first major submission to March 27 and the responses to early April. The parties also requested additional time for Daubert motion oppositions, which addressed the admissibility of expert testimony. Judge Lemon granted the request. That grant matters, but not for dramatic reasons. Deadline extensions in complex civil litigation are common, especially when expert discovery and summary judgment briefing overlap. What it does signal is that both sides are still fully engaged in preparing substantive arguments. It does not indicate settlement discussions, it does not pause the case, and it does not change the scheduled trial date, which remains set for May 18 unless the court orders otherwise. Prior to the extension, the calendar showed a sequence of procedural steps leading directly into trial preparation. Summary judgment briefing was underway, expert depositions were scheduled to conclude, and pre-trial conference dates had been set. None of that has been erased. The structure remains intact, only slightly shifted. When both plaintiff and defendants agreed to move deadlines, it usually reflects logistical realities. Expert reports often require detailed rebuttals. Motions in limine can involve dozens of evidentiary disputes. Jury instruction proposals must be carefully worded to align with applicable federal standards. In high-profile cases, filings are scrutinized not only by the court but by the press and the public. Precision matters. What stands out here is the absence of friction over the extension. There was no opposition, no accusation of delay tactics, no dramatic courtroom sparring. Just a procedural request under the judge's individual rules, granted without incident. That calm procedural adjustment contrasts sharply with the broader public narrative surrounding the case. Online speculation has ranged from imminent settlement theories to predictions of dismissal. The docket does not support those claims. If anything, the continued coordination on pre-trial filings reinforces the likelihood that both sides are preparing to litigate this fully. Meanwhile, another story has quietly captured attention online, one that moves far beyond celebrity branding or federal civil procedure. It involves a woman named Nancy Guthrie, who has reportedly been missing for more than 3 weeks. According to public appeals, her daughter has now offered a reward reportedly reaching $1 million for information leading to her whereabouts. Yet, despite the time that has passed, there appears to be little publicly available evidence of progress. In an era saturated with surveillance cameras, license plate readers, and digital tracking systems, prolonged disappearances raise difficult questions. How does someone vanish without leaving a trace in a world where doorbell cameras capture delivery drivers and highway cameras log vehicle movements? Law enforcement agencies, local authorities, federal investigators, and specialized task forces often deploy significant resources in missing persons cases. And yet, sometimes, answers remain elusive. There is a stark emotional difference between following a courtroom docket and confronting the reality of a missing person. Legal disputes revolve around deadlines and filings. Disappearances revolve around uncertainty and fear. As days turn into weeks, public curiosity transforms into concern. At this point, the Nancy Guthrie situation remains unresolved publicly. What is known is limited to reported timelines, appeals for tips, and the increasing duration of her absence. What is unknown far outweighs what is confirmed. And in cases like this, speculation can do more harm than good. Still, the convergence of these stories, celebrity expansion into children's programming, active federal litigation, and an ongoing missing persons case drawing public attention, creates a broader picture of how quickly narratives evolve in the digital age. One moment, the conversation centers on pajamas and bedtime humor. The next, it shifts to evidentiary standards and trial calendars, and then to something far more serious. What remains consistent across all of it is public scrutiny. Every filing, every promotional clip, every timeline becomes part of a larger mosaic people attempt to interpret in real time. What makes all of this fascinating isn't any single headline on its own, it's the contrast. On one side, you have a carefully packaged family television rollout, a Hollywood actor sitting in soft lighting, reading whimsical stories as animated elements float around him. On the other, you have federal court filings moving quietly but deliberately toward a May trial date, and layered beneath that, a missing persons case that underscores how fragile certainty can be in the real world. Ryan Reynolds has built much of his public persona on self-awareness. His brand thrives on irony. Whether promoting aviation gin, co-owning Wrexham AFC, marketing Mint Mobile, or starring in Deadpool, he leans into humor that acknowledges the absurdity of celebrity culture itself. Bedtime Stories with Ryan Reynolds fits that pattern. It takes something traditionally gentle and sincere, bedtime reading, and filters it through his dry, slightly mischievous delivery style. For some families, that twist is refreshing. For others, it feels misplaced. But strategically, it's consistent with how Maximum Effort approaches content: high concept, personality-driven, and designed to spark conversation. And conversation is currency. At the same time, the legal case involving Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni continues advancing methodically. Motions in limine are being drafted, jury instructions are being shaped, expert testimony is being challenged and defended. These are not signs of a dispute fading away. They are markers of preparation. Trial litigation is expensive, time-consuming, and rarely pursued casually. When both sides jointly adjust deadlines rather than withdraw claims, it usually indicates they are preparing for a courtroom resolution. It's also important to recognize how public perception can distort procedural reality. Extensions get interpreted as weakness, silence gets interpreted as strategy. Promotional campaigns get interpreted as distraction, but federal litigation operates on a timetable that often has little to do with social media cycles. Judges grant extensions because attorneys need time to prepare precise filings, not because one side is gaining or losing leverage in the court of public opinion. Meanwhile, the unresolved disappearance of Nancy Guthrie serves as a sobering reminder that some stories do not follow neat narrative arcs. Unlike entertainment rollouts or court schedules, missing persons cases operate in uncertainty. The longer they continue without resolution, the heavier the questions become. In a society saturated with digital surveillance and data tracking, the absence of answers feels especially unsettling. But until confirmed updates emerge from investigators, speculation remains just that: speculation. Taken together, these developments reflect something broader about the current media landscape. Celebrity, litigation, and crisis all unfold simultaneously in public view. Audiences scroll from children's programming announcements to court docket updates to urgent appeals for information in a matter of seconds. The emotional shifts are abrupt. The context shifts even faster. Ryan Reynolds reading bedtime stories may seem trivial compared to federal litigation or an active missing persons search, and in many ways it is. But the reason it draws attention is because it exists within that wider ecosystem of scrutiny.
Every move by a high-profile figure gets analyzed through whatever else is happening around them. Timing matters, optics matter, narrative framing matters. As of now, the trial date in the lively Baldoni matter remains on the calendar for May 18th. The adjusted pre-trial deadlines are in place. Nickelodeon's rollout of Bedtime Stories with Ryan Reynolds is scheduled, and the search for Nancy Guthrie continues, with public appeals still active. There are no dramatic conclusions to draw at this moment. No final verdict has been issued. No courtroom outcome has been decided. No confirmed breakthrough has been announced in the missing persons case. What exists instead is motion. Procedural motion in court, promotional motion in entertainment, and investigatory motion in an ongoing search. And sometimes that's the most honest place to leave a story. Not at a climax, not at a cliffhanger, but in the middle of real life unfolding in real time.